All right, Colby! That was Colby. Bob, you see that?
And I am a magician today. And I'm also going to give you some good tricks here. Now, for my first trick is going to be a card trick. The pen. Now I pick up this first card, and it's a king of diamonds. But to do that, I had to look at it. Okay?
Oh, nothing's impossible, is it? Not for the great Colby, the magician.
Said that the day I was born, my dad brought him in, and so he was almost 3, and my dad brought him in, and my mom went to uncover my feet and show him my cute little toes, and she said that Colby screamed and threw a fit at her and said, "Cover her feet back up, she's gonna get cold, I don't want her to get sick." He was very much that way since the day I was born, always very protective of me.
Birthday to you. Oh, Augie. Okay, Case, make a wish.
When we were growing up and we were younger, so if we're talking like early elementary school, we were both of us, very high energy. We did a lot outside. Before we moved to Doylestown, we lived on a property that had like a creek in the backyard, and we were always outside, you know, wandering through the woods, very adventurous. He's always been very outgoing, very fun-loving. There were a lot of pranks at my house. Honestly, between my dad and my brother, I don't know which one was worse with the pranks, but if there was a prank, he knew it, and if he didn't, he invented it. So as we got older, we had to walk around our house on eggshells because he was just constantly trying to get us for everything.
But love practical jokes, little ones when he was a kid, and they got bigger when they got older, and
you know, putting a rubber band around the spray hose on the sink and then asking his brother to go get him a drink of water, and you know,
just
all that kind of stuff.
Just loved doing that kind of stuff.
I'm Keith Spacey. And I'm Colby Cheese. We'd like to rap for you, if you please. I'm her brother. I'm his sister. And if I had a chance, I'd give her a blister. When he has chicken pox, I think he looks funny. When she eats a carrot, she looks like a bunny. I ask her to come outside to play. She looks at me and says, "No way."
There was one time, it was the last trip we did as a family to Disney World. We used to go every couple of years. And he had epically pissed me off. And I do not remember what it was he did, but I wouldn't look at him. I wouldn't be in the same room as him. I was so mad. And it was something stupid. Played some prank or did something and just pushed me a little too far. I'm ignoring everything about him because I'm so irritated. And after a couple of minutes, I finally turn around and he's got the Thriller song playing, the Michael Jackson Thriller song playing, and he is doing the entire Thriller dance. Like, I don't even know how the man knew the entire Thriller dance. And he's doing the Thriller dance behind me in the room, and I'm like, I'm watching him, and I'm like, trying desperately not to laugh at him because I was so mad, and there was just a point where I couldn't, and that was the kind of thing, that's like the prime example of the kind of thing that he would do, like if he pushed me a little too far. You know, he would find any way that he could to make me smile, make me feel better again, because he felt bad that he upset me, whatever it was. So.
I would say he was a normal teenager, middle schooler, and you would think he would be a rough guy, but he wasn't. He was that gentle giant kind of guy.
He was an athlete, a gifted athlete. He was smart as a whip. He was a typical middle school boy who didn't want to do the work that he was capable of doing. He was always respectful. He was always polite. He always cared about other people.
The first time I met Colby would have been camp. It would have been for the sophomore year at CB East football camp, I guess in August.
His quote was, "Anyone can go to East or West and win. I want to go to East and win." You know, so they didn't, but
But boy,
but he never regretted it.
he loved being the underdog.
Yeah, that's a good explanation for him. He liked being the underdog. Yeah.
It wasn't 9/11 that made him want to do all that. This was already beforehand that he had decided this.
I mean, we used to go. He had probably been to Arlington half a dozen times. You know, because we would go down to different things in Washington, and we would always go to Arlington. And he was enamored with the place. And you know, I just think that was part of the military thing with him. We never ever tried to push him into it or anything like that, but it just seemed it was just his calling, I think, to serve.
He's always had a very good respect for like our country and our freedoms, and so it never for a moment surprised me.
He would call home from Iraq, and when he had to hang up the phone, he didn't call very often because he was an officer and he felt like the other guys should call home that had families and kids, so he didn't call too much. And he would always hang up and go, "I have to go get the bad guys, Mom," you know.
I got an email from, I believe from Mrs. Umbrell first, telling me I would be hearing from Colby because he was going to start this project, and that the schools that he saw in Iraq were in such terrible shape that he felt the need to do something to help the kids in Iraq, and so he wanted to collect school supplies.
He went over to Iraq and he said, "Oh, Mom, these kids don't have paper, they don't have pencils, they have a building. The infrastructure's falling down.
They don't have electric."
He said, "This is terrible."
And I started the collection process here, and the plan was that we would box the stuff up and his parents would take responsibility for shipping them over to him. And so we started our collection, and then when he was coming home on leave, he asked if he could come to school and meet with our Honor Society kids and show them some pictures of the kinds of conditions they were finding in the schools in Iraq and why this was such an important thing to do. And the kids got a really good picture of what that was like. And it fueled their desire to help even more and help the collection take off. And that's what happened.
Oh my goodness. Our house was filling up, our garage was filling up with, and then we had, you know.
He ended up getting people to ship it over, so he was going to pay for it.
He was going to pay to ship it over, and somebody came through, a UPS company came through, and you can't UPS to Iraq, you have to use the mail. And he started this huge wave of stuff going over there. When he was awarded the Bronze Star, There's one that's called With Valor. Well, he didn't get that one. He got it for all the extra things he did above and beyond his job. That was not his job.
Above and beyond the call of duty. That's what the
and he worked with the civil affairs over there, and we heard from those people what an awesome young man he was, that he cared about. And he said to us, "Mom, it's too late. You can't change the Iraqi adults over here. You've got to start with the kids." And they're all, the adults think we're the infidels, we're the bad guys. So we have to re-educate these kids so future generations won't think we're what they've been taught. And I just like, wow. He got known in town for helping, and they liked him. And he had also, as an officer, had an interpreter, so he could talk to the people and kids. And lots of pictures we had of him with these people there. And so he was the good American, and they wanted to make sure he was out of the picture. He was targeted, and they waited for him to go on patrol, found which vehicle he was on. They let him go through the checkpoint, and they waited for them to come back through, and then they blew up his.
He was killed by an EFP, not really
Not
an
the
IED.
IEDs. He knew we were so proud of him. You know, and luckily he died quickly, you know, it was instantaneous, so.
Can you tell us about the day that you found out that your son was killed in action?
Yeah, I was home. The phone had rang the day before at 11 in the morning, and you always knew it was from Iraq. There was a certain area code, and but he didn't leave. There was no message, which was really unusual. He would usually just say, "Hey, Mom, Dad, I'll try you later," or something, and he didn't try our cell phones, and I thought that was unusual. So I remember telling some friends, I'm gonna stick around 11 o'clock the next day, in case his schedule was the same and maybe he would try calling again. And they were like, "You can't do that every day," or whatever. So my husband was
She said, "Yeah, watch me."
So my husband was self-employed, but he was off at work, and at about 11 the next day, the black car with the two, I saw the car pull up, and I went to the front door. I didn't hear they were at first, and then when I saw their uniforms, at the time I had one of our other sons had enlisted in the Army, and he was in Korea, and not in a battle zone or anything, but you know, and I just was thinking, oh, what did he do? I didn't even think about. And then the gentleman, first, the higher ranking officer said to me, "Are you James's mother?" And right away I was so relieved because I knew they had the wrong house. And here he looked back down, and Colby's middle name is James. Colby James. And I don't have a dramatic story to tell you because my best guess is that I went into some kind of shock or I did nothing. They told me, and they came in. I told them to come in the front door, and I can remember literally not knowing what to do other than I needed to call Mark. And they kept telling me they didn't want me to call him. They wanted to sit down and tell me everything that happened. I just could tell them, no, you just stop talking. I need to call my husband. And luckily he happened to be just a couple miles away, and he came, and they even said
she told me on the phone. So I just whipped around. I was right up in the middle of Doylestown here, and just turned around.
I didn't cry or anything. I think I just couldn't believe. I just couldn't believe it had happened.
You get in shock. Yeah,
and they sat down with me in the living room while we were waiting, and they asked if I was okay, and I said yes. And I asked them if they had both served, and I thanked them. They had both been on a tour, and it was just a blur. And then Mark got home, and
then she cried.
I cried, but my worst day was the day he was buried in Arlington. That was awful. That was just the worst. But I think, in looking back, I must have just been in total shock because even Mark was really upset, of course, when he got home. And I made the phone calls to everybody. But all I said the same thing to everyone.
Don't ask me any details.
Don't ask me anything. Colby died in Iraq yesterday, and I said that to everybody I called, just family, not everybody, and we just sat down and just cried together then. But my hysterical day, I guess, was when he was buried. I think that made it feel real.
I got the call. It was surreal. It was probably the most surreal thing that ever happened to me. I was working at an equipment fitness store out in Princeton, New Jersey, and it was in the morning. And even around those years, I didn't get a lot of phone calls. Still, but I remember getting a phone call in the morning, and I remember just feeling like something weird was going on. And when I answered the phone, I remember like hearing this like faint voice, but like at that time I kind of like really started piecing everything together. Like, one, who's calling me? I didn't recognize the number, and why is it such a faint voice? Like, why is this person not talking? And it was Colby's mom calling me, and I don't remember really exactly like what she said, but I do remember this like rush of just consciousness, just like wow, that's it, like that's it. And I was just by myself in the store, like opening it up, and it just rolled over. Like literally, I had to like sit down and just like.
I was at work and my mom called me. It was, my mom said she tried, so my husband, like I said, we weren't married at the time, but he's been my husband for 10 years, so. But, he was in the military at the time, and he was in a class that day. My mom said that she tried desperately to call him so that he could come home and tell me. She couldn't get him on the phone. She had no other means of reaching out to me, so she legitimately called me. I was a secretary at a doctor's office, and she was just a phone call in the office.
First, the news came out about Travis Mannion being killed in Iraq, and the news was a Doylestown native. And so my Honor Society kids all came into me in a panic. Was that Colby? Was that Colby? No, it wasn't Colby. Colby is okay. It was someone else from Doylestown who was fighting in the war. And 7 days or 10 days, however many days later, I can remember standing in the lobby of the building outside the front office and the secretary coming out to get me to tell me Colby's mom was on the phone. And I said hello, and she told me that Colby had been killed. And so that afternoon, before the kids went home, I called the Honor Society kids into the auditorium, and I told them.
Colby represented everything: pride, accountability, trust, respect, investment, opportunity, teamwork. Every single one of those assets were found in his life, and I think all of those assets are reflected in his life posthumously. But it was that sense of accountability, that personal responsibility to be actively involved and to make a difference. Whether it was making a difference for his country, whether it was making a difference in his own life, and in the way that he stuck up for others and made a difference in other people's lives.
Picking one's hard. Trust might be a really big one, but I also think that's one that's that way for me because the kind of relationship that we had. But I think that they are all so, like I also go to teamwork initially, but they all really encompass each other so much.
I think he was very proud of where he was from, his hometown, proud to be part of the CB's community, and I think pride is the overwhelming character trait that I think flows from Colby and his legacy.
Teamwork, it was never about Colby, it was always about the team. Whether it was playing football or a project he was doing, it was always about the team. So for sure, he took pride in what he did, but he was not boastful in any way. Colby earned others, was very respectful, and also earned the respect of many who knew him, without a doubt. He treated everyone respectfully. He was such a good human being. He took advantage of opportunities that were presented to him and created opportunities for others. I think his mission at the school in Iraq was to create opportunities for those children so that they had a chance at a better life. He was all about how to make life better and do for others. That's who he was.
He invested in any community he lived in, whether it was here, whether it was Hopkins. He helped build the kids' castle. When he was in the Army, he would donate blood.
He was invested in how he could help. He was invested by trying to make everybody else shine, by being the best he could be in support of those people around him, for sure.
His legacy is always going to be one of personal responsibility, of courage, of high ethical standards, and someone who really cared enough to put others in front of himself.
He was barely 27 when he died, and he did a lot in his 27 years. And I think he really was conscious on the fact that, I'm here, and every waking moment I'm going to try to do everything I want to accomplish. I want to do, every adventure I want to go on. He just never stopped in that regard. He was always and he was never really too concerned about the past, and he certainly was concerned about his future, but he never really at any point became complicit, and he was really motivated, but he was also really fun at the same time.
And the way that Colby influenced others' lives, it made others better. It made the world better. It made others better around him. And he gave people a sense of hope.
Still be able to accomplish whatever we wanted to accomplish, but still have a lot of fun. Still be a really, really happy person. And I know for me, I've always tried to do that. And nowhere to his level, but at least it's been a nice blueprint for my own life.
Colby was one of those people who lived his life to help other people. He was such a good human being.
And you don't have to be a football star.
Oh gosh, no.
To be invested in your community or just help somebody. If you have it pretty good in some way, then maybe there's somebody out there that you can be there for or encourage somebody.
And as other people look to him as the role model that he was and continues to be, that will perpetuate his legacy and keep Colby alive through the actions of others.
I think in a lot of ways, and certainly there have been so many amazing people that have come through these doors, but I think in a lot of ways he's the ultimate patriot. And I think that's what incoming students need to understand about him, that it's not just a name on a stadium, and you know, it's somebody that walked these halls and laid his life down for his country, but did so many great things along the way here at East, at Hopkins, in the military, setting up a program at school with a school system while he was overseas to help facilitate school supplies. And he just really went above and beyond, I think, in every capacity of his life. So that's what I would want everyone to understand about the legacy of Colby.
He gets a lot of attention. Okay, so in that manner, it makes us feel good. You know?
The first thing that runs through your mind, and I remember saying this to everybody, is please don't forget him.
Don't forget him.
Just please don't forget him.